In this Tech Talk, I am discussing artificial intelligence and 3D vision technology for bakery processing and packaging with Craig Souser, President and CEO of JLS Automation. Hi, Craig. Thanks for joining me today.
Sure. Good morning, Joanie. Great to be with you again.
So this is a great topic. Vision systems, bottom line, vision systems are becoming increasingly intelligent, and they can be seen in several areas of manufacturing processes these days. So how are these technologies like artificial intelligence, for the sake of this conversation, let's call it AI, and 3D technology, how are they taking vision to the next level in a bakery operation?
Sure. And you're right. It's a big topic. It can get very complex. We could talk all day about it. So we've been using vision cameras, primarily 2D for 20 years, but 3D has certainly popped onto the scene. And I'll talk about AI maybe subsequently because they can be very related, but they are very distinct and certainly, in how they might play. We have started offering 3D on some of our standard products because the cost has gone down, the speed has gone way up, and the tools to implement it are much better than they used to be. So for us, in some cases, we can actually implement 3D technology for less money than 2D because we don't need lighting. All we need is a laser. So
Wow.
Because of the capabilities of 3D, we can do things on a given application faster than we could with 2D. And of course, engineering time is money. Let me give you a couple examples. Scoring of bread, where you have an artesian loaf of bread that you want to score. And it's artesian bread, so no two loaves are the same. And if I'm going to score it effectively with a tool, with a knife, with a robot or mechanism, I have to know how high it is, obviously. And that's the basic advantage of 3D vision, is it knows how high the object is. For another application that we saw recently was a baked item that was a multi-layer item. The cookie was enrobed in chocolate, and we we're going to place a chocolate top on top of it.
Oh, okay.
So the question was, once we're finished, is the top on it? If I'm putting a white top on a chocolate item, I can look at it with a color camera easily and determine, yeah, it's there. But when they're the same color, you don't know. You need that height measurement. And again, 3D gives you that. That's the reason, one of the main reasons you go to it. So we can start to integrate inspection with the packaging operation, which drives huge value.
Wow.
Just another example of 3D versus 2D is we really would have to push our customers to keep the belts clean, because if you get enough crumb buildup, it starts to look like a product. With 3D, doesn't matter because we're looking at the height of the product. So those crumbs aren't tall enough typically, and we just ignore them.
So the vision is getting smarter.
Much smarter. So let's talk about smarts. Let's talk about AI for a minute.
Right. Speaking of.
And AI is not new. AI is in our world all over the place. You go back to the horsepower required to do machine learning or artificial intelligence was incredible. So you would have to have, very large computers, very high speed, and generally they were in a server farm somewhere, and it was an offline process. So now we can put the AI engine on the machine. It may still need to be a separate device because we, do need that much bandwidth. But we can embed it on the machine and not have to deal with, well, I don't want you going out to the outside world, sharing my data, and then making changes on my line. You can't do that. So if we go back to inspection, the best way to think of AI, it truly is doing the job humans do. And where we're good, where humans are good in inspecting, is making subjective decisions that are gray. They're not black and white decisions. If it's black and white, we don't need any real smarts to do it. We just need a discerning sensor that can make a, yes or no decision. But when it's a little bit fuzzy, so for example, I only want you to handle the good loaves of bread. Well, what's good mean?
Right.
So the process typically is you would go through and the system would be told what good and bad is, again, black and white.
Mm-hmm.
Then you would go through, you'd send, let's say, 1,000 loaves of bread, if we're talking about bread, or 1,000 items past the system. It would look at every one and determine was it good or bad. You would take those results and say, well, okay, that's really not a good one. I want that to be bad, or that's a bad one, but I want to accept it. And you would reteach those items to the system. So that system is learning what you and I would be standing there doing if you were training me on how to identify bread and saying, well, I know I told you to look at bread that's got a nice brown top to it, but you accepted that one that's basically got a big brown burn mark. That's not what we mean. We mean more, surface coverage with the color and the brown. Well, that's exactly what the system ends up learning. So now going forward, the system's making those decisions.
So what does the timeline look like? How long does it take to essentially train the machine?
It's typically in a day, pretty quickly.
Okay. Wow.
The systems I'm most familiar with that use this, you need a lot of images, let's say 1,000, but most production facilities, 1,000's not that hard to come by. It's more evaluating the data and agreeing what's good and what's not, and again, delving into that gray area. So if that can be done with the right eyes on it, doesn't have to take a lot of time. Today, it needs a pretty highly trained resource. We see a lot of companies that they want to get that power in the customer's hands, whether that's JLS or desirably the bakery, and train the appropriate resource. I don't think this is ever going to be like operator level. I think, it's probably a tool that could be used by a plant engineer, a maintenance person that's properly trained, and it's going to become somewhat ubiquitous over the next half dozen years. It's really going to come on fast.
I can see that. So how does JLS work with bakery engineers to get that training on the AI?
Either JLS will provide that ability or our vendor would have to do it. But I see that wall breaking down.
Okay.
I think because behind the scenes, what's going on, I'm making it sound like this is just easy stuff, but these AI companies have, multiple PhDs working for them. And it's not just automation for industry. It's all types of stuff where AI is becoming more and more part of our daily life.
Right. Yeah. So when you think about 3D and you think about AI, like you said, these are not either or, they are applicable in several areas of the bakery. And it kind of all depends on what a baker needs, what the product is, what the staff looks like, host of factors. So what is the best way for a baker to get in touch with JLS and see which of these technologies will work best for their operation?
Well, the easy answer to that is www.jlsautomation.com. Just reach out to us and, talk to one of our sales guys. They're all familiar with this technology. We also have a gentleman in a new position that we've created that's somewhat of an R&D kind of function, that his purpose is to go out and find what's after AI, what's coming next. So we have some resources that could provide some consultative discussions, not to come do it, but just to have a discussion about what's feasible, what are the costs, what am I dealing with once I own it.
So 3D and AI, this is just sort of the beginning. Craig, thanks so much for taking time to talk to me today. This was really interesting.
Absolutely. Totally my pleasure.